Ding dong YouTube, welcome back to the channel. I'm the Jobless Coder, and it is now the 24th day, I believe, since a fire was set to the building in Lake Louise known as Charleston. Everyone here called it Chucktown, and it burned to the ground, causing 165 of us to essentially be homeless without a place to live. It is also the third day of joblessness since I was fired from my job, with reduction to the staff in an effort to save on costs, and frankly because they can't find enough housing units for everyone. Yesterday was a very eventful day, as there was news crews all over the ski resort. A lot of people were emailing and messaging news companies and crews. I successfully arranged an interview with CTV News and with Global News, so I'm going to be playing those interviews as part of this video for you to see. But there was also a story published by Kevin Fleming, I believe his name is, and he is the journalist from CTV News who did the story with me, and I was the primary focus of that story. There was a few of my colleagues that were also interviewed and featured in that news segment, and I just wanted to point out a few interesting things that I noticed about the response he got from the management team, specifically Dave Shebeck. Dave Shebeck is the COO, which is the Chief Operations Officer of the ski resort here in Lake Louise. And in the interview, he put a direct quote where he stated for both Global News and CTV News that they were happy to retain approximately 95% of the staff for the company. Now, this is something that I really wanted to point out when it comes to journalism. This is something that Tim Pool often criticizes a lot, the clever wordplay that politicians will use and manipulation of numbers to attempt to tell a different story than what's actually going on. That 95% number comes from the total staff of the ski resort, as the Charleston building was not the only building at the ski resort. And there's another place called the Great Divide Lodge that houses mostly the bus drivers, and there's a place in the campground called the 4-2s where people are staying. Plus there's also accommodations in other dishwasher. He worked for a restaurant in Field, BC, and commuted in half-an-hour drive from his car every single day. So he wasn't affected personally by the fire. Emotionally, yes, he was affected because all his friends lost everything. But when you incorporate the bus drivers and the people in Great Divide Lodge, those that are working at Skokie and all of that, and you add it all up, yes, they only did let go 5% of the staff for the company. But the story is reporting on those people specifically who were in the fire. So it creates this false understanding in the viewer with the audience that the 5% of people let go are those who were affected by the fire, when in fact it's significantly higher than that. Now, this is not any fault of a journalist. Kevin Fleming did a great job in reporting, and I got to ride with him in the vehicle from Sunshine Village all the way up to Lake Louise. I got a good hours-long chat with him on the drive up, but he explained to me that a news segment is 100 seconds long. And the story is obviously concise. It's not going to go on for days, so that way you can get the most amount of information across to the reader and the viewer in the shortest amount of time possible. But the problem with that is it often leaves out the finer details that help to explain the story a little bit more. And that is where I come in to tell you that, as I understand it, the intended target for layoffs is approximately 40 people. There was 14 people laid off on the first day. That was when I was fired. There was 12 people laid off yesterday, and a total of 40, so I am told, meaning there's another 14 that still have to be fired. And when you add those numbers together, that's 165 people that were affected by the fire, and then of those people you're firing 40. That's 25% of the staff from the Charleston building. Yes, it may only be 5% of the staff working for the company, but we are talking about here those victims affected by the fire. And of the victims affected by the fire, approximately a quarter of them now no longer have a job, myself included. So that's a little bit of, I don't want to say malicious, but it definitely seems intended to mislead the audience into thinking that, oh, only 5% of the, it's, a half a dozen, a handful of people. No, a quarter of my friends are now royally fucked. because they don't have IDs, they don't have passports, they don't have any bank cards or money or anything like that, because, you know, now that we've lost all our stuff, we're having to spend money hand over fist to replace it and get it back, and prioritize what's most important first, of course. But yeah, and then they're told now you don't have a job either, and then where are they supposed to go? You know, some people got photocopies of their passport. I got my passport back. It survived the fire. What are you supposed to do with that? You know, go to the airport? You think border security is going to let you get on a fucking airplane with a photocopy of your passport? They're going to laugh you out of the building. So it's stupid. It really is, especially since we were all promised that we would have job security and that they would take care of us until at least we had secured something else, and then they just dropped this bombshell on us. And I did state in the interview, this is true, that we have been living rent-free and getting food for free since the fire, and that is way more than they had to do. So they've gone above and beyond in some regards to keep us happy and well-fed and looked after, and then this is why it was such a sudden shock, like a bomb being dropped on us with the news that people were being fired, because it was so counterproductive to what they had been doing all along. I got to spend 3 nights at one of the most fancy and opulent hotels in the entire country, the Fairmont Chateau Lake Louise, entirely paid for by the insurance, business insurance for the ski resort, as I understand it. And so, you know, to go from that to, well, now you don't have a job and a source of income, and then you're going to be evicted in 5 days, that is just a royal kick in the ass. It really is. So for me personally, I've been definitely affected. I feel bad for my friends who are foreign internationals, because that is the news story. The news story is the ski resort has now stranded all these foreign international workers in a country, and they don't have passports or IDs or any ability to go and get another job. And so, like, one of them is like saying, oh, I want to save up enough money to get an airplane ticket home. Save money? How? You don't have a job anymore. You don't have a source of income. You can't go and get another job without your visa. You know, maybe a photocopy of your visa might work or suffice for that, but otherwise, you know, what are they supposed to do? Get a cash paid under the table job and be an illegal worker? Not by choice, but just because they have no other means to get a plane ticket home. So that's one option that's, I suppose, on the table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the video now, and I'm going to read the CTV news article. It's another devastating blow for people who work at Lake Louise Ski Resort. First, a fire ravaged their accommodations. Then on July 24th, 10 hospitality staff were given notice, and a day later, 12 people were let go. We've looked at every option, and the simple fact is that we have a deficit when it comes to housing. We've explored everything we could, took our time doing it, says Dave Shebeck, Lake Louise Ski Resort's general manager. With the displacement and the fire, and where we sit today, you know, 95% of our team is still here and still employed. So we're proud of that. But we do recognize that unfortunately it boils down to immediate number of beds. They just aren't out there. On July 3rd, a fire was set to the third-floor units of the Charleston residence in Lake Louise town site that served as staff accommodations. Most residents lost all of their belongings. Evan Svensson from Didsbury figures about $5,000 worth of his property went up in flames. Now the 26-year-old says that being laid off is another punch to the gut. Oh, it was heartbreaking, you know. I came up here, I had a new job and a new life, and then it just seems to be cut so short, he said. We are like a family here, and after the disaster, we felt closer than ever, because there's something that tragedy does about bringing people together, and now it feels like we're being broken apart. And Beth Lavalsey, a 21-year-old from England, was swimming at Lake Louise when she got the call to come to the resort for a meeting, where she found out she was no longer employed. Both she and her boyfriend Gavin Fulford were laid off. As of all of her belongings are in grocery bags, and she had a hard time getting her life back to normal since the fire. I have a photo of my passport that was given to me, a photo of my social insurance number, and a photo of my visa. I have 5 days to leave the resort. That's it, she said. Just being an international, like my parents are 7,000 miles away, it's overwhelming. It's the first time I've left the country as well. Along with the letter informing them of the layoff, the resort provided a potential employers list in the mountain parks. We wanted to do all we could to help our team that wasn't going to be with us relocate to another business in the Bow Valley that needed employees and had accommodations that could provide for them, says Shebeck. It was the right thing to do. Svensson is already reaching out to other possible employers and is thankful for what the resort has done for him in the past 3 weeks since the fire. "We've been living rent-free and we've been getting all food provided to us for free," he said. "So they've done absolutely everything, bending over backwards to make us feel happy." Svensson hopes to get a job at the resort when it gears up for the winter season. Alright, so that is what Kevin Fleming wrote. That was published around, I think, 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then they had the news broadcast that happened at 6 o'clock. So now I'm going to show for you the video news broadcast that came as a result of this interview.
2 days have been hard on staff at the Lake Louise resort. That's because 22 workers have now been laid off. It was just 3 weeks ago that the staff accommodations burned down in the town site. Now some are without their possessions and a job. Kevin Fleming reports.
He was called in for a meeting Monday, and soon after, Evan Svensson was no longer employed. He was a dishwasher in one of the resort restaurants. It's been a challenging 3 weeks since the fire in the Charleston building where he was staying, and it just got worse.
We are like a family here. Chucktown was a family, and after the disaster, we felt closer than ever because there's something that tragedy does about bringing people together, and now we're being broken apart, it seems.
Gavin Fulford and Beth Ann Levesley also got the bad news. Levesley is from England, and this is her first time abroad. She's worked at the resort since October and doesn't know what's next.
I have a photo of my passport that was given to me, a photo of my SIN number, and a photo of my visa. I have 5 days to leave the resort. That's it.
The July 3rd fire destroyed the building most resort staff lived in. It's been a scramble to find accommodations for everyone.
We've explored kind of everything we could and took our time doing it. Prior to the displacement and the fire, and where we sit today, 95% of our team is still here and still employed. So we're proud of that, but we do recognize that, unfortunately, it boils down to immediate number of beds just aren't out there.
Dave Shebeck says the 22 staff that were laid off received a list of potential employers in the Bow Valley, and Svensson is grateful for all the resort has done since the fire.
We've been living rent-free and we've been getting all the food provided to us for free, so they have done absolutely everything, bending over backwards to make us feel happy and welcomed here.
Now the resort is having a more permanent modular solution constructed at the ski hill. Phase 1 of the new staff accommodation still needs permanent water and power, but then it'll be ready to house 44 staff members here. And Phase 2 is underway with another 44, and they're hopeful to get another Phase 3 built in time for ski season. Kevin Fleming, CTV News, Lake Louise.
Now, some of the laid-off international workers were hoping the resort could do a little more to help them replace their passports after the fire. That so far has not happened. They say they're still waiting for the insurance claim to be settled too, so that they can be reimbursed for all their property that was lost in that fire.
All right, so after I did the interview with Kevin Fleming, then he went and he interviewed Dave Shebeck, part of the management team. In the meantime, Global News was on their way out, and they decided to start with the management team. So they went right into an interview with Dave Shebeck again for their report, and then they came out and they interviewed myself and another girl named Jade from the food and beverage department. And Jade is, again, a foreign international worker who's now stranded in a foreign country. And so I'll play for you now the Global News report.
It was a home away from home, a refuge for Lake Louise staff from the chaos of the mountain.
These people feel like family to me, and there's a part of tragedy that brings people together.
Affectionately known as Chucktown, the Charleston residence burnt down on July 3rd, taking everything inside with it.
I saw my bedroom go up in flames, the entire 3rd floor of my home for a year, gone.
165 people from all over the world were left searching for a place to live. Despite bringing in temporary housing, there wasn't enough rooms. As a result, Ski Louise had to lay off about 10% of its staff from the food and beverage department.
Waiting for my passport, hoping to save up enough money with this redundancy that I'm going to get to pay for a flight home, I guess, and then start over.
I literally just got this job and this new opportunity to do something great with my life, and I came out here, and then 3 weeks later I lost everything.
At some point, like I said, the numbers don't work anymore. We have a lot of accommodation that we're currently using that is not available to us as of the 31st of July.
With housing already in short supply in the Bow Valley, the laid-off workers say they will be scrambling for a new opportunity or resort to moving away and back home. Megan Cobb, Global News.
All right, so those are the two reports that happened yesterday. There was also a reporter phoning me from the Calgary Herald and Sun who was looking to get an interview with one of the internationals who was affected, because as I said, that is the story. The story is that these foreign internationals are now stranded in Canada, and so I wasn't able to find anyone and to get back to him, so he might just write an article without an interview and that, but he did get information from me, so there's a possible story to be appearing today or tomorrow in the Calgary Sun and the Calgary Herald about it. I also contacted CBC News, but they never got back to me. But I went through their Go Public team, so maybe I should just contact the news department directly regarding that. Now for me, here I am at Sunshine Village, and I decided to check out jobs here. And yesterday I went into the kitchen and met with the manager at the base of the hill, and then he took me up into the HR office, and we got everything up there. They gave me the information that I had to apply online, and they gave me the email for the woman up here on the hill who does all the interviews for the Sodoxo company, because apparently all the food and beverage staff at Sunshine Village are not actually employed by Sunshine, but a third-party company called Sodoxo. So I got all that information and sent her an email. I went down this morning to the office where the food and beverage people are, and I went in and asked if this woman was around, and they went back to check, and so I went. There was a different woman in the office, and then there was a guy sitting in there too, and I said that I had applied for the dishwasher position here and that I was hoping that I could interview for it, and she says to me, "Are you one of those people from Lake Louise?" And I said yes, and she said, "We will hire you." It was oh, okay, just instantly like that. She told me that when she saw the news article, she forwarded it to her boss, and she says, "We have to fix this. This is not right." And so then I said, that was me in the news article. And so, I almost broke down and cried. And then she gave me a great big hug and said that she would give my information and all that to this woman who does the interview. So I have an interview set up tomorrow for 1 p.m. And so it seems to be a formality at this point to do the interview, get the paperwork and documents signed and all of that, and go from there. But it seems, basically guaranteed that I'm going to be getting a job here at Sunshine. And she told me, "Welcome to Sunshine." And she said, if there's any of your colleagues that want a job here, they're looking to help, because they really feel bad for everyone here that got dropped on their ass the other day. And so they're definitely reaching out and being supportive of everything and helping out here. And that'll be the easiest for me, because it means I don't have to pack and move out or move into a different staff residence for a different company. I want to work for a ski hill, and the only other one in the area is Banff. I don't have a vehicle. I can't just drive to Whistler and get a job there. I think Panorama is another ski hill that's nearby. I can't just drive to Panorama and get a job there, and it's not like you can get a bus out there either. Maybe you can get a bus from Calgary to Vancouver that goes through some of these places along the way, but not necessarily stopping there. So I'm kind of stuck here in the area, and the only other ski resort is Sunshine. And from what the HR department at Lake Louise told me, apparently there's like an agreement between the two ski hills where you can actually ski at either one if you're employed for either one. So being employed here at Sunshine, I can still go back in the winter and ski at Lake Louise, depending on how many ski hills are open. I mean, if they're short-staffed during the winter, they're going to have to close the entire backside of the mountain, as I understand it. That's entirely speculation on my part, but I don't see any other way that could happen. And then likewise, anyone that is employed at Lake Louise still and living in the new modular trailer units, they can come up here and ski during the winter, so that's an added bonus for them. So, it seems very likely at this point that everything is going to settle down and I'm just going to get a job here. And for at least until September, as I understand it, a lot of my friends are going to be here, so I'm going to see them and have meals with them, and then when they leave, it's going to get really lonely. I mean, yes, I've been here for 3 weeks. I haven't interacted too terribly much with the other staff from Sunshine, so I guess I can make new friends and go from there. Yeah, but when I told my mom the news, she broke down and cried on the phone, because it's really emotional here, to see the support that the community has rallied around us here, to just be like, you know, we want to help, we want to get you guys jobs, we want to make sure that you're not just stranded in a foreign country or left homeless and destitute. And so that sounds like a great plan going forward. I'll just continue, pick up where I left off and continue as a dishwasher, but now for Sunshine Village, and we'll go from there. So yeah, I want to thank everyone that watches these videos and supports the channel, and anyone that's supported anyone who's been affected here in Lake Louise. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm going to go back through all the videos, and I'm going to post a link to it was a GoFundMe page at first, but then they transitioned it to the Banff Canmore Community Foundation for donations, and we've gotten 2 rounds of pay from donations to help replace some of the items we lost. And so I don't know if there's a 3rd round plan, depending on how many people pay and support for that. My mom's looking at setting up a GoFundMe page for me personally. There were some staff members that set up a GoFundMe page for them personally that did quite well, because we're still not sure when or even if insurance will pay out. And at this point, it seems very much an even if it will pay out, given the financial circumstances here. Yeah, I mean, Charlie Locke was here the other day, and he is the owner of Lake Louise, and I can only speculate on what he said because I wasn't there to see him, or I wasn't in any of the meetings, but I can fully imagine that if he's bleeding money hand over fist to keep this place open, he probably came in and said, look, you're going to fire 10 people today, 10 people tomorrow, and 10 people the day after. I don't care who, make it happen. And that was it, you know. And that may or may not save the resort in the end anyways, if they can't operate properly during the winter season. So I wish them all the best to stay open and, you know, avoid bankruptcy at this point is really what it comes down to. But again, that's all speculation on my part, not knowing the financial position of the Lake Louise Ski Resort. So we'll just play it by ear and see how everything goes going forward into the future. But make sure to like this video and share with your friends and subscribe to the channel, and until then, I guess I'll see you in tomorrow's update. Hopefully by then I'll have a job, and then I can definitively say that yes, I am now employed with Sunshine Village. And until then, I'll see you in the next video, and goodbye.